Hey, welcome to my channel. Um, Now that some time has passed, 2 days pretty much, since the most epic collapse ever in Giants history, let's be honest, especially in the fourth quarter. Yeah, now having some time to think about it. I mean, everyone was saying, it's like, hey, you got to look at the bright spot. Like, this shows that Dart is your guy. That Dart is the quarterback of the future for the Giants. This is the one. Yes, but only for a time being. It depends on two factors. One, if he gets injured. Two, how the longevity basically that comes into it, and the other aspect is the system that he's going to be in. Now you can bring up to the point, it's like, yeah, like you had Daniel Jones. I mean, like, he's thriving under Dable because he comes in and Dable is getting to mold him. Whereas Daniel Jones, he had two other head coaches and two other different systems that he had to adjust to, and then he adjusted to Dable very quickly. But let's be honest, everyone thought Dable was the guy after not Dable. I mean, Daniel Jones was the guy after Dable came. Um, I was still never convinced. I'll be honest. I was never convinced. Still won't be convinced that Daniel Jones was the guy, and he still is that good. Because quite honestly, when he was with the Giants that first year, when you had Saquon behind you, you're getting those wins. When you have decent receiving cores, you're getting those wins. When you have a okay offensive line or really good offensive line, you're getting those wins. And that's what it was at that time because the Giants D was really good, but Saquon Barkley was the one that pretty much drove that team. He was the one that put everything on his back and got down to the field and all that stuff. And that's what opened up for Daniel Jones. Quite honestly, if JTT is not there with Indianapolis, I'm kind of curious to see how Daniel Jones would do. I'm kind of waiting to see for JTT to get injured to see how Daniel Jones responds. Because, like, the thing is, yeah, the fact that they beat the Chargers, it was a good test, but that was a good test to show that JTT is the one. All they got to do is cover JTT considerably, like just blitz the hell out of him. Daniel Jones won't respond. And you'll see, time will see, time will only tell, or as time progresses, you'll see basically, as we Giants fans saw. You're going to say, well, no, maybe it's been the system because Dable sucks. I think Daniel Jones was not a good quarterback. If you put in the right situation, it's a different story. Dart is showing that he can adjust and he's learning. I mean, this is a guy that you want. This is a guy when after I seen the press conference, the guy was like really ready to cry almost. That was that's a player you want. That's a player that you want playing for your team basically because this is a guy who took everything to heart in his sleeve, and like when it didn't go through, he's like so dejected, so disappointed, and such. Now the question comes down to is, yes, Dable brought him on board. Shane had drafted him. Dable, Dart might have saved Dable's job for the time being, but my feeling is looking back at that game, everyone's going to blame, hey, Dart should not have thrown that ball. Well, the thing is, it wasn't Dart's fault. He was given that call to basically throw the ball because you're 3rd and 5. You got to get the first down. But rather than run, they decided to throw. Hence the interception. So I think that was coaching itself. That was a mistake on the coach's part. I think they learned. But the thing is that they didn't learn was the defensive part. Like, as far as like what had happened with Dallas this season, you would figure like, they have a lead and, like your defense has to come through it, and they didn't. And everyone says like, hey, you should be charging 3. You have 8 in the back and charging 3. You should have charged more. Like, what the game was going on for you for the first 3 quarters. Should have done that as well too, until those last minutes when you changed it to 3. Thing is if they charged 4 or 5 at the line, that leaves like 4 basically out in the coverage at that point. And the thing is like if one of the wide receivers gets a touchdown, what do you do? How do you explain that? It's like, well, yeah, everyone is like, why aren't you playing cover D? Why are you playing like, why'd you play aggressive? It's an if, ands, or buts about it, basically, like a bunch of what ifs. I like how Gruden was on, I think, Barstool. He actually, John Gruden, surprisingly enough, he called it out. He's like, look, it's the case of the matter is like you had 8 on the back. None of these receivers should have gotten 25 yards. It's true. Granted, we had two injuries at that point, and like our secondary became kind of weak at that point. But the same factor is you had 8 players on the freaking field, maybe 4 wide receivers, 2 to a person. They should not be getting 2 25-yard completions, and that's what happened. Granted, yeah, Burns, I'm going to give the fact that the Burns, when the offside came in because of Burns is coming back to the field very quickly, but the dude was injured, so that makes sense. Everyone's like, oh, you should have burned the timeout. I don't think the timeout would have made sense anyways, because then you're giving the Broncos time to basically figure out what to do. So take the penalty, but the thing is like, you have 8 in the back. Even Burns was saying, like, 8 in the back. I don't know if he was frustrated at the fact that, like, hey, we were charging through, we should have charged more. I think this was a case where, like, I think he was pissed off. Like, we had 8 in the back, two to a wide receiver, 2 to a receiving core, and they still were able to get 25 yards. I mean, like, how does that happen? How does that happen? That's why I think the secondary became weakened considerably. Banks, Phillips. I mean, honestly, you had your shot, you had your moment. You're not showing it. You have a couple more games to redeem yourself, but I don't think that's happening. This game shows that basically that after this loss from this game, 2 factors that this game shows. One is the coaches have to come together, figure this stuff out. If not, then Dable does not deserve to be head coach because it's the thing is like how players learn from this. The thing is, our coaches learning from this because if they're going to be headstrong and says like my system works, it worked in the past, it's going to work now. Problem is like they didn't see this or they didn't seem to have learned from the Cowboys game that like hey the defense has got to shift. You got to tighten up at that point, but they didn't. And that's hence a 33-point comeback. 33 points scored by the Broncos in the fourth quarter alone. The other thing is that this loss also shows that the season's pretty much over. Let's be honest, the season's pretty much over. Even if the Giants come back, there's no way the Giants are going into the playoffs at all. If you do not be delusional. I'm a Giants fan. I want to think they can make it, but my thing was like I said, like if the Giants can win this, if the Commanders lose against the Cowboys, which they did, they lost, and if the Eagles could have lost to the Vikings, which they possibly could have, and the Giants go into this coming week with the win off of Denver, they could definitely beat Philadelphia. This loss is going to deject them to the point where like the players are not going to know what to do. Philadelphia is going to come in just like roll right over them. Basically, they're going to roll over them. Let's be honest. I think the wake up call that Giants game was a wake up call to the Eagles. The Giants lost to the New Orleans Saints. You figured that would have been a huge wake up call for them, but it wasn't. The question is this Denver Bronco game going to be the one that wakes them up? Basically, it's like, hey, we've got to tighten ourselves up because like, you can't blame the offense. Even when they were down, like when they were at the 1 yard line with 40 seconds to go, everyone's like, oh, they should have taken and knelt it or something basically to run out the clock and then score. Problem is like that. This is a Denver D. They were doing really well, anyways. They were doing really well. They were going to expect. The moment the shift happened, you saw that I even knew that Dart was going to be running in, and the fact that the Broncos didn't anticipate that was, I think, a little shock on my part. That they was like, how did you not see that he's going to run? But in any case, their defense was still doing pretty good. You were taking a huge liability risk to the point where like everyone would have been arguing was like, hey, why didn't you like basically try to go for it? Why did you like try to run out the clock? Why didn't you go for it with 30 seconds, 40 seconds to go? It's going to be a bunch of what ifs in 2020 hindsight type of questions basically. So it made absolute sense. And from Dable's perspective, I can understand. Get the score. Let our defense handle it at that point. I think he had so much confidence in his defense based on the first 3 quarters and not the last 5 minutes that he was like, well, I think we're good. I think our defense will step up. Turns out they didn't step up, and that's the sucky part. Phillips, I hate to say this, but like that catch should not have happened, but he let that happen. And then the other aspect is like the dart, the pass in. I mean it's put it this way. This is a case where like everything that went against the Giants went against the Giants, and it's a sad state we're in. But I'll say this: do I think Dable will be out of the after this season? Time will only tell. It depends on how the Giants play against the Eagles and how the Giants play against the. Let me see who they else play against. I forgot the next game after the Eagles. I actually saw this because I remember like asking, I was like, all right, if the Giants play against the Eagles and they win, I was pretty sure they would be able to beat their Giants. Schedule. The 49ers. Well, look. I'll be honest. If the Giants can actually beat the Eagles, 49ers, and Bears, and Packers and Lions, oh jeez, that's, and then they're going against the Patriots on December 1st and the Commanders. They got to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game winning streak. They have to go in 10 wins. If they can do a 10 game winning streak, this saves Dable's job. I was about to say Jim Falso. If you remember, you remember. But the thing is, if the Giants can actually, it depends on how Dable and the team comes back and plays against the Eagles, 49ers, and Bears. Let's see what happens with those 3 games. If the Giants can take those 3 games from them and win, I think it changes the dynamics for Dable and his job is safe. But if he loses, and if they don't play really well against the Bears and they lose to 49ers and Bears and Eagles, I hate to say it, end of the season, Dable is going to be gone. I don't think he should last. His entire team, his entire coaching staff has to go at that point as well. Sadly, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator has to go. I don't know what to say, but honestly, if in the next 3 games, if Dable doesn't do anything where it's not a close game, or you can see that the Giants give up, Dable's lost his team, and it's time for him to go at that point. I hate to say, I don't want to see him to go, but he's gonna have to go. Hopefully, he learned from this mistake with the Broncos, and he taps and learn and adjust to the next 3 games. But again, only time will tell. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Put it in the comment section. I read all my comments and I do respond to them. You're welcome to let me let me if I'm an idiot about saying hey the Giants can win 10 straight. Let me know because I'm pretty sure the Giants are not going to win 10 straight. Actually, to be honest, I think they're going to lose the next 8 games. Quite honestly, they play the Raiders second to last game, and I'm pretty sure they're going to lose the next 8 games because every other team has a winning, really highly winning record, and they play against Commanders at the so. I have a feeling they're going to be 2-15 at this point. They'll probably be 2-15. Anyways, with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, of course, always unrehearsed. Until next time.